for you, what was it that allowed you to make that transition from, doing all your training in the aerospace engineering space to focusing on civil engineering and learning this brand new kind of world?
So most of my master's was, I want to say 75% of it was paid by Boeing. And all my research was for Boeing. And I never had a question in my mind that I was not going to work for Boeing. And when time came for me to work for them, I found out that I got my master's in Missouri. So their location was in St. Louis. I found out that St. Louis location had defense contracts. And after 9/11, foreign-born engineers that did not have a green card or were citizens were not allowed to work on those projects, which I completely understand. I just did not know that. I missed that part where, I'm immigration-wise, I'm not employable at that location because I don't have the security or the immigration status to work. So, and I'm first generation immigrant. So I literally did not know anybody in the country. Most of my friends had cousins, brothers, siblings. They graduated and then just went and stayed with them. And even my husband was my best friend in college. And he had a cousin and he left to Virginia to stay with them. And I was just looking and I applied for thousands of jobs, did not get even a single job. And somebody was looking for an engineer, an alumni. He was looking for an engineer. And he goes, hey, my professor knew that I was looking for a job. And he goes, Deepa, try Deepa. She can maybe learn and be a good resource for you. And they just gave me a shot. I interviewed and they were like, oh, okay, we like her. And they gave me a shot. So, yeah.
No, it's the story of perseverance, right? Just overcoming those obstacles and get the doors closed on you 1,000 times and you open up 1,001 until you got that opportunity. So appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk about kind of your move to Seattle. More important, you talked about you and your husband had some extra income. You did some research, realized multifamily investing and real estate is where you wanted to invest. What was it about, real estate at that time with where you were in your journey that you looked at to say, you know what, I want to invest in real estate as a limited partner? What was that process like?
So it goes back like many, many years. When I was living in Texas, I would just scroll through real estate listings for fun. That was my way of decompressing. Working as an engineer, by the time I'm done with the day, I would be cross-eyed because I would look at like literally thousands of numbers every day. And I would come home and I was living by myself in Texas and I would just scroll through real estate listings. I have no opinion. I did not have any intention of buying. That was just my way of like decompressing, running numbers. I didn't even have the income to buy anything at that time, but I just was drawn towards it. And when we moved here to Seattle, this extra income, I was losing sleep. It was not a lot of money, but I knew that money, if it sat in the bank, it's losing value to inflation and opportunity cost and everything. So I just was looking for places to park it. And long story, we looked into a single family house and I'm the mechanical engineer. My husband is a computer engineer. And he goes, who's gonna work on the house if you buy a single family house? And I go, I will do it. And he goes, who's going to watch the kid? We have a 5-year-old. At that time, we had an infant. So this was in 2016. And he goes, does that mean I'm stuck watching the child? Or I go, okay, now that's not going to work for our lifestyle. So we looked into buying a commercial property. And, we are in Amazon's backyard. Amazon tests out every new product here in the area, and we are a suburb of Seattle. So we thought, we either hire or we either rent it out for Amazon as a warehouse or rent out the parking spot for Amazon trucks. But we can't really compete with Amazon, and it's single point of failure too. It was only for one tenant. So we go, this was all, we haven't invested any money. This is all just our thought process of what to do. And then we went to a meetup. And there was a gentleman who was given his 2 week notice to at Microsoft, and he hadn't syndicated, but he had multiple multifamily properties. So I was like, oh, that's great. That might be something to look into. And with his inspiration, I almost bought a fourplex in Tacoma, which somebody paid all cash. And just like before even I can put in an offer, it was gone. So that was one of the best things that happened to me, by the way. I would have been stuck with small multis if I got it. But so then once I lost that, I was looking to how can I extrapolate and make it scale, and stumbled into syndications and learned. I've had a bit of analysis paralysis being an engineer for a couple of years, and really dug deep and read every book I can get my hands on, and started investing as an LP. I always knew I wanted to be a GP, but I wanted to learn the LP side of it so that I can serve my LPs when I become a GP. And I didn't have a green card at that time. So I was prepping everything to, once I got my green card, once I'm legal to start an LLC, I have everything ready, the infrastructure ready to hit the ground running. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. When you decided, you talked about, looking at properties just to even for fun, almost a decompression type of exercise. And then finally deciding, okay, I want to invest in real estate, but how? Do I do single family? Do I do small multifamily? Are we looking at commercial places where we could rent something to Amazon? And ultimately you decide in multifamily. You mentioned that as you were talking to that individual who put in their 2 week notice at Microsoft, that really opened up your eyes to this other opportunity, this other, direction with multifamily. With that first syndication deal, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome for yourself, whether it be analyzing a deal or getting comfortable with the operator? What was that process like? And what were some of the challenges you had to overcome?
As an LP or as a GP?
As an LP.
As an LP, yes, thank you. So as an LP, that was a complete, I want to say, guesstimate. And there was a bet. I mean, it was an investment, but I knew I wanted to invest in syndications, but I did not know. And all these syndications are private placements. I did not know any syndicator with whom I could invest. So one of my friends, she was a flipper. And I was telling everyone, I was asking everyone, hey, do you know a syndicator? I know that this world exists out there, but I do not know a syndicator with whom I can park my money. So this person introduces me to a syndicator who's also very new. And she goes, here's somebody, I think she's a syndicator, but I'm not vouching for her. It's just a contact. You vet her out. And I go, okay. And I spoke to this person, and she was an engineer too. So we connected instantly, no frills, no sales pitch, just pure engineering talk, numbers and such. So we geeked out for a little bit. And I asked her a few questions, and I felt that she was very, very, there was no rosy glass view at all. And when I asked, hey, tell me about a project where it went sideways, and how did you deal with it? And how did you communicate with your investors? And she was pretty open. She was very specific, gave me examples, and that made me feel comfortable that when something goes sideways with my investment that I'm potentially be investing in, she'll be upfront. And it was a total guess and a bet, but it worked out.
Well, it sounds like you did a couple things though, right? First of all, you asked people in your network. So I think that's an important takeaway. What I took away is three things, right? One, you asked everybody in your network. Two, right. When you got a referral, you vetted that individual, you asked them questions, you try to find some commonalities. And then third, you asked a great question, tell me about a deal that went sideways or a deal that didn't pan out as expected. And you listened, you're listening to what they said. What did they learn from that experience? What happened in the deal? What did they pivot? How did they correct it? What was the communication like? Are they being upfront and honest in this situation, or are they trying to hide something? And I think you got comfortable based on that response to feel comfortable, at least with the person, right? And then whenever they had the deal, you ask whatever deal questions you got. But I think that's really important is one, ask people in your network. If you're listening to podcasts like this, that's a great place to start, right? I mean, there are people here who certainly syndicate. I'm one of those folks. So you certainly want to ask those people to get some referrals. Two, vet them out. And then three, ask questions that can give you a sense of who they are and how they operate and what you could really expect if you decide to work with them. So I think that's three. While you felt like it was a gut thing, I feel like you just gave us three really good, tangible action steps if you are looking to find somebody to work with as an LP. You mentioned that you kind of knew that you wanted to be a GP as well. So you start off as an LP and then you kind of transition to the GP side. Tell me about that transition.
Yes. So, I definitely wanted to be on the GP side because I am interested. And, that's what I did to decompress. And I thought, how nice would it be if I did that for a living? And I don't really need a vacation from my work because it doesn't feel like working. And honestly, it doesn't feel like work to me at all right now. So transition from GP, from LP to GP. So I invested with two different sponsor groups. I vet them and I invested with two different sponsor groups. And from the very beginning, I had told them that, hey, I am doing this to learn how to be a good GP. And that's my whole reason for investing as an LP. So my intentions of being a GP was very clear. It was not a surprise. And also I learned from every newsletter that came my way. Every month there's a newsletter that comes for if you're an LP for that particular property, and I would read everything, and there would be a little link at the bottom saying, "Click here to for the financials." And I'd be the person who clicked the financials and looked through it and asked questions. And I would read through the PPMs like 3 times. The second syndication, it was a 200-page document for subscription document, and I read everything 3 times. And this was during the midst of the pandemic. And my 3-year-old is home. The only time I can read through anything is between midnight and 5 o'clock. I used to take time for my real estate work during midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. And I would read through everything I can get my hands on, ask questions. And the other thing is I would try to be as helpful as I can to add value to the sponsorship group because I'm a licensed professional engineer. And I'd say, hey, if you have any documents that need to be reviewed by a technical person, I'm here. I can do it pro bono. So I try to add as much value as I can. And now, as a GP, I write investor reports for the groups that need it. And because I actually read PhD theses for different people for fun. I am a peer reviewer for the Journal of Structural Engineering for American Society of Civil Engineers. And we are the gatekeepers for the research in the world to get published in this flagship journal for American Society of Civil Engineers. So I really like reading and understanding and writing reviews. So writing an investor report was that was just natural to me. So I do that for the group right now. So yeah, that was my transition.
No, I love it. I love it. The thing I love too is going back a little bit, when you were really exploring your options into real estate, I think you realized hey, as a professional couple, we got a young child, how much time can we dedicate to the various roles and various responsibilities? So starting out as an LP really made sense for you to have some flexibility, but continue also to grow and learn. And that's exactly what you did. You start off as an LP, as a busy professional, put your money to work, but use that to review the documents, talk to the general partners, learn a little bit more about why they're making certain decisions. What does it take to be a good general partner? And then ultimately use that to transition into the general partnership side. You talked about really loving to review documents and taking a look at all the information that's coming through and really adding value to the team in that capacity. Most of your deals I know are kind of in the Southeast region, Texas, Florida, and some of those markets. What is it about that area that is appealing to you, particularly since you do live in Seattle?
Right, right. So when we find a deal, we actually vet the market first. Can the market support this property? If we acquire the property, does it have the resident profile, the target resident profile, and can it support? Will we have residents? So we look at population growth. And the first thing is we look at job growth, because if there's job growth, people will migrate. And I moved to Seattle for a job. So where there are jobs will attract people to move to those areas. So we're looking at demographics, 1 mile and 3 mile, what the median income is, and how the market, the single family home market, the mortgages compared to the rent. And if the rents are too high, then it makes the single family residence route very attractive. Instead of renting, I could just buy a house. So we look at the delta over there. Overall, the resident profile for the property has to be there. So if the market has, the residents can support it, and if we can buy an off-market deal where there's not a lot of competition, and yeah, that's pretty much what initially that's what we look for. And these areas, Texas, Arizona, and Florida, the 3 states in which we operate now, those 3 states have all of that. They have population growth, job growth, and they can support the target resident profile is there in a 3 mile radius.
Yeah, it
So
makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. And that's really consistent with what a lot of people are looking at, right? You talked about, is it a growing market? Are people moving to this market, particularly for jobs, because job growth is such a huge driver for population growth and being able to sustain that as well. So those are great metrics. And then you mentioned as well, like kind of comparing mortgage rates or the mortgage payment to the rent rates. Is there a specific benchmark that you're looking for, or is there a gap that you're looking for, so like, yep, this is great, or is it just more so just as a gut check?
So it really depends upon what the median income is. So we also compare what the home rates are compared to the median income. If the houses in the area are $200,000 and the median income is about $80,000 to $90,000, it's only 3 or 4 times. If they can save at least half of their income, it only takes them a few years to pay off the house. So we're looking at the rent versus how much the median income is versus what the single family rates are or the prices are. And the delta, we want it to be at least 20 to 30%. It sometimes works out, it sometimes doesn't, but that's what we're looking for. And in some markets, it depends upon which asset class. In some markets, we want it to be at least $300 per month. And, it's always a spectrum. For Class A assets, it might be different. And for Class B and C assets, it might be different. For Class C assets, it might be a couple of $100 per month difference between the mortgage and the rent. But for Class A, it might be a bigger difference.
Makes a lot of sense. So all of those things come into the strategy, but the bottom line is this. You want to make sure you understand who that resident base is going to be and what are their options. If it's cheaper for them just to buy a house, you want to make sure you understand that so you can factor that into your business plan. But if there's a wide gap between what it would cost them to go out, buy the house, get a mortgage, and the rental payment, that's what you want to monitor. So that's a great insight for anybody looking at different markets, is make sure you understand what that consumer is going through as they're looking at their options to rent or buy, what's going to influence that decision for them, and make sure you understand how much room there is to push on the rents. For you, again, being in Seattle, I know you've got partners and folks that you work with there. When you look at investing, was Seattle always off the table? I know at one point you were considering buying a smaller property in your backyard, but was that always off the table, or did you initially decide, hey, you know what, let me start here, and then realize that maybe these growing markets in the smile states there, Florida, Texas, and Arizona, those might be more advantageous to you?
Right. No, it was not always off the market. But, in this market, it's definitely not, because I'm underwriting deals here as well. And even for short-term rentals, our holding costs are much higher than if I aggressively underwrite the income. Even if I assume we're not going to have a lot of vacancy and come up with the income that way, and it's cost me more to hold the property than the income that's coming in. So right now the numbers don't work out. Back in at least 6 years ago, Seattle usually never works out. It has to be an off-market deal. But I used to work in Tacoma, And Tacoma was definitely much more affordable. And right now, because the city is expanding and we have so many different jobs, so many companies coming in, even Tacoma is out of the question at the point of this recording. So nothing, the numbers don't work out. It just costs us more to buy, and it doesn't, cash flow is not even a thing here. So
Yeah. I think it's important to understand too, is like, what's your business plan? And in
right,
the case of, what you're doing, especially if you're going to syndicate, cash flow is definitely important. It's something that you're going to look at. And when you talk about Texas, Arizona, Florida, those are growing markets, but they still cash flow. And that's
right,
really important to understand. Whereas in
right.
Seattle, that may not be the case. So what's your business plan? Is this a cash flow market or not? Or is this more of an appreciation play? Ideally, you want both. So that's the reason some of those markets are very popular, is because they do offer both cash flow and appreciation potential. So we definitely see that in the marketplace. And the other thing that you said, I think really stands out, is just make sure you have the right strategy for that property as well. As we talk about cash flow, that's one thing, but could you do some short-term rentals? Could you look at, other properties or other strategies that make sense for the market? And then the last thing that you said there, which I think is worth repeating, is when you look at a market that may be expensive or maybe you can't get cash flow, find other adjacent areas. You talked about shifting from Seattle and looking more in Tacoma, and there could be opportunities there, maybe not as much today, but no matter where you're at in the country, if you're in an area where your main market is expensive or you're not being able to find the deals that cash flow, look around and find some adjacent areas where maybe there is better cash flow, and that could be a solution that you're looking for. And a lot of investors are actually doing that today, but that's a great insight to make sure that you're not just looking at one market and then closing the door, but take a look around, because there might be better opportunities around you if you look for those. With that said, great insights there. For people who want to learn a little bit more about you and learn a little more about the investments you're doing, what is the best way for them to reach out?
The best way is my website. It's vinsidecapital.com with a Vinside. My portfolio is up there, and there's a little bit about me on the website. And there is a link to my calendar. So they could just book time with me over there via the website. And LinkedIn is also a great place to find me.
There you go. Vinsidecapital.com. We'll make sure we link to that in our show notes. Are you ready to move on to our round of insights?
Yes, let's
All
do
right.
it.
Give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Yes. So when I was starting to work on my very first capital raise, I was very, very excited about the opportunity. And I'm always letting the speaker lead me in whichever direction they want to go. And these are all my friends and family. I can't, it was a 506B. So the apparent failure at that point, it was people were ghosting me. So there were only not people, I had two friends who were really good friends, but the apparent failure is that I could not read that they were excited for me to be in real estate. They were not excited to invest in real estate. They were excited, asking all the right questions that an investor would, but there's a slight difference between them being excited for you or them being excited for them to invest. So now that has really set me up to be upfront, and I go, hey, it's completely okay to say no. I think I did not do that upfront. So now I can say it's completely okay. There is no buyer's remorse. And once we decide to work on this, we are married for 5 years. You have to talk to me, I have to talk to you. So yeah, that's something I stumbled my toes on at the very beginning, from which I learned.
And that's a great lesson, particularly for anyone who is working with friends and family, is, you've got to figure out how to have, remove the awkwardness in some of those engagements and letting them know it's okay not to invest.
Right.
So great insight right there. All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
So I don't know if it's for the business, but I use Scribd. It's called Scribd. It's an app for books, for audiobooks. So you do not pay per book on there. I think it's like a $10 per month but you can read as many books as you want. I'm an avid reader, and I average about six to eight books. I just read 2 books in the last 2 days, but it adds up if I have to buy every book. So Script is a good resource for people who are avid listeners, and yeah.
Love it. And these are audiobooks or these are physical copies?
These are all audiobooks. You could put it on there are also books that you can actually read like a Kindle. They're books as well, but they're also audiobooks.
Got it. Speaking of books, give me the book you've recommended the most in the last year.
Oh, the most in the last year. I have a favorite one now, but the most in the last year has been The 4-Hour Workweek. And that kind of got me started on the path that this life is possible, not having to work 40 hours a week. But I'm going to give a bonus. It's called The Go-Giver. It's changed my life. It's amazing. So
2 really good books there. Appreciate that. All right. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goal.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I have a gratitude journal. And I started doing this when I needed focus. And I write 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And I also, I'm starting a new habit which focuses me on what the 3 things that I need to accomplish the next day are. And I am a content creator. I'm a writer. I just like consuming content while reading books. And if I have my to-dos ready for the next day, my subconscious is working at night. I actually come up with most of my content at night. I get up like at 3:00 in the morning and I'm typing or writing so that I don't forget, because it's happened that I forget. So I put my subconscious to work. I write what I'm grateful for that really keeps me grounded and makes me live in the now to see everything I have, because gratitude and depression can't coexist. So I've had some trouble in the depression with the past. So I try to be grateful for everything I have. I woke up in the morning. Everybody I love woke up in the morning. I can see. So small things like that keep me grounded. So I try to do that every day.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Give me your number 1 insight for multifamily investing.
Number 1 insight for multifamily investing: read as much as you can. Learn, keep on reading, be an avid reader and learner.
Great insight right there. All right, let's lighten the mood. You're in Seattle, you moved from Texas. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Okay, I live in Auburn, Washington. I'm not in Seattle, I'm in a suburb because I used to work in Tacoma. We're midway between Tacoma and Seattle. So Thai Bistro is a Thai place which we love. So we love spicy food, and they deliver. So,
I love it. I love it. What's your go-to dish?
It's basil fried rice.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Listen, great insight. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your journey from really being in the engineering space and getting even started in engineering, and ultimately ended up going into civil engineering as opposed to aerospace, but ultimately getting into real estate, beginning as a limited partner on some of these deals, investing in over 1,300 units as an LP, switching over to the general partnership side, investing in as a GP in over 1,000 units, and continuing to build out your business. Again, for those folks who want to learn more about you, I believe the website is vinsidecapital.com. And make sure, you can reach out there if you want to learn more or you want to connect any further. But I just want to thank you again for coming on the show today and spending some time with us. Deepa, thank you again. We look forward to staying in touch, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, John. Thank you for the opportunity.